Hello everyone, welcome to Redbust US channel. In this video, we'll look at the latest DHS regulation that was published today that ends the automatic EAD extension for H4, L2, adjustment of status applicants and others as well, right? So there are quite a few, things, people that are impacted. So this in fact came yesterday, it was officially published today only, so that's why we're making today. So that's what we'll do in this video. This is what we'll cover in this video, essentially like a quick background, who it impacts, why they're creating this, chances of lawsuit, common FAQs and all sorts of things. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, do subscribe for getting regular updates. So first to start with, right, this is the what you see on the screen is the Federal Register. Where you can see the regulation that is published today. Basically it reads removal of automatic extension of employment authorization documents. So that's what it reads, right? So just to ensure that all of you are on the same page, right? A quick background on this, EAD automatic extension for 540 days, right? So essentially what this, automatic extension is that, let's say you applied for an EAD with USCIS and that is pending with USCIS, but you are in status, then, instead of waiting for the approval, you can actually take the receipt notice and then your valid I-94 and then use that to continue your employment. That's what it is. So it's applicable for a host of applications, right? Or visa types that are eligible for this, like H4, L2, advanced adjustment of status, quite a few of those, right? So the idea is this is what is for automatic extension. So essentially what happens is it helps you due to the delays and all of that, right? When there are delays or adjudication, you don't get gaps in employment and you can continue to work. So that's the fundamental idea of this, right? And if you look at when it started, was back in March 2022 when Biden administration wanted to introduce this to catch up with the processing times. They issued a temporary rule in May 2022 to move from 180 to 2. Originally it was 180 days, right? They made it 540 days. And then in April 2024, they extended it, right? Again, so basically the history is that they've been extending it on and on. And eventually in December 2024, just before Biden administration was, stepping out, they made this final rule that was effective from January, which made this permanent. So we're not sure what would happen, and eventually this has come to the date again. Trump has again started to revoke this, right? So that's what's happening, right? And again, why are they ending it now versus waiting all these years, right? Again, if you look at the background, right, Trump administration, since they took office, they always have been focused on, national security, all sorts of things around that, right? I think this also, they mention the same things, on this, right? So national security concerns, what they say is when you continue to do automatic extension, you're not really vetting them, whatever that means, right? So that, you have to continue to vet them so that they can, before they start working, it's done in the right way. And they also say that it's based on presidential directives. There are 2 executive orders protecting American people against invasion, protecting from foreign terrorists and blah, blah, whatever, right? So 2 executive orders. And also there was a recent security incident that happened in Boulder regarding, an asylum seeker with an automatic EAD extension, used some of these Molotov cocktails and did some nonsense, right? So they basically quote that as a reference as well. And they want to maintain integrity. So all in all, right, they want to ensure that, national security, all these typical things that they've been doing for all these years, right? All the regulations that they've been doing it, right? So that's the fundamental idea behind this, right? And what you can see on the screen is the actual regulatory text. I will put a link to the article which has all these screenshots and links, and you can read in detail, right? So that's what it is. Now, what is the rule, right? So what is exactly ending? So the main thing is the 540-day automatic extension is completely eliminated. It is not like they are reverting from 1 to 180 days. They are basically removing it completely. So if you are currently eligible for automatic extension, you will not be eligible for that, and you must stop working when your EAD expires. You can't work anymore with that previous provisions. So you can only work after you get your approved EAD card in your hand and then they approve the renewal application. So there are some exceptions to this, like some TPS related temporary production status related applications and some of those things, or people who are who have this provision by law, right? So these are some exceptions, but for the most part, whoever had this extension, they're all gone. So which is actually quite a big thing, right? So as you can see on the screen, these are all the categories, and I'm not going to go one by one, right? Like refugees, asylum seekers, there are quite a few L2 visa holders, right? And pending adjustment of status applicants, right? This is a big one. And C26 H4 EAD holders. So these are all the various, categories, quite a few categories that are impacted with this change. So that's what will be impacted by this change. Now, what happens, right? There is also one small clause they put in, right? Telling that how does employment authorization work for people, for somebody who who get employment authorization incident to status. What incident to status means that, like, for example, L2 or E2 holders, right? They don't really need an EAD card when they enter America, right? They get an I-94 card and you get something called L2S written on it as a status. Based on that only, they can actually work because this is as per Congress and all of that, right? So now what happens is that, right, for people with L2 and who are incident to status like L2 and E2s, right, and others also as well, right, so they can continue to work even after the EAD card expires as long as they have status. So it does not mean that again, the scenario is that people, if they want proof of authorization, what happens is L2 visa holders, after they come in, they can apply for EAD card and they would get that. But the situation is that, let's say you applied for an EAD card and you got it for, let's say, an example on the screen is January 2026 15th, right? And now you exited the country, and in the meantime your employee, your husband's employer or your spouse's employer rather, right, they got a new extension, and now based on that you try to re-enter America. Now your I-94 is valid till, let's say, December 10th 2027. Now as soon as what happens is, now when you re-enter America, you can continue to work despite your EAD card expired, after January 2026. But the problem, or the only concern is, rather the catch is that you can't use that card for NN verification. That's the only thing. You can use I-94 with that and then continue to work. So that's the only thing, right? So these are for cases that are incident to status, where who get employment authorization as part of incident to status. And most of the common ones are L2s and E2s, which are the ones that we are familiar with. Others are also there, but these are the main ones, right? Now, again, you can see the screen. This is the actual regulatory text as well, right? So we'll put a link to the article. You can read that in detail. So when is the effective date? It's effective today, which is October 30th. They haven't given even a single day, right? Literally. Again, there was something that was late yesterday, but today, it's basically today. It's already published. And any applications filed before October 30th do not come under this. They get that 540 days automatic extension. But if you file after, or on or after October 30th, which is today or after today, then you all fall under this and you don't get any of this extension. Again, what you see on the screen is essentially like the rule name, and we're publishing Federal Register and effective date and all of that. The important thing to note is it's an interim final rule. What does interim mean is that, let's say it is not a final rule, but it is a final rule. The idea is usually as part of rule making, what they do is they publish a rule, they get NPR, basically they get comments from the users, and then they publish a final rule. But in this case, what they quote is basically, okay, this is an emergency one, we're going to just publish the final rule and then get the comments and then maybe change. So that's what's called an interim final rule, right? So let's look at the impact, right? Now that you understand what's changing, right? So just to give a perspective, what you see on the screen is current processing times for H4 EAD filed standalone, which is about 7 months, and for adjustment of status applications that are filed with the center, right, which is service center operations, and that's about 12 months. The irony or the part is that, right, you can't apply for extension before 180 days. So that's the guidance. Now if you apply before around 180 days, right around when it starts, now the processing time is longer than that, so you will have an employment gap, so you can't work for that 1 month or 6 months, whatever that number is, right? So this is a big problem actually. Back in H4 EAD delays many years ago, right, like in the last few of the first term of Trump, right, we had many of these things where there were delays, and we had to file. A lot of issues were around that, right? So I think we may encounter this again. We'll have to see, but just in terms of the magnitude of impact, right? So what you see on screen is the data that we were able to pull from USAID's website, right? For FY 2024, for H4 EADs, there were 95,000 applications, receipts, approvals, all of denials are together. And for advanced, adjustment status, it's about 240K, right? 2023 is 152K and 94K. And asylum applications 800K. So just to look at the volume, there are over 1 million applications, just adding just these three, right? So you can imagine the magnitude of impact it can have on the overall employment ability or the employment authorization for all of these applicants, right? So I mean, the biggest thing is you may lose your job, right? And you will probably end up into financial hardships, especially for families, when you're dependent on both of the incomes, right? And definitely workforce disruption. So even if you are an adjustment of status, now you are really stuck with this new thing, right? So again, this is a huge impact for many. So we'll have to see how it will be addressed, right? So on that note, will there be a lawsuit, right? It's very likely there will be a lawsuit. The reason is, they didn't really follow the proper rulemaking process. This is going to impact such a huge number of people. The impact is so huge. They should have gone through the NPRM, which is getting the comments and then giving some time for that. And there is no emergency justification, I mean, there's one-off incident, but other than that, it's not like something's happening on that level. So we'll have to see how this will be played out in the courts, right? So the expectation is that, we can see lawsuit coming anytime in the next, week or so, or in the next few days. So that's something we can expect to see. Now, in terms of, so that's the overall thing, right? Let's look at some common FAQs, right? Okay, you're an F1 STEM OPT, you're an F1 applying for STEM OPT, does it impact you? In fact, it's a different rule, it doesn't impact you, so just ignore that, right? And is it completely removed is reduced, all right? It is completely removed. There is no reduction of automatic, it's gone, basically, that's the idea. So how soon can you apply for EAD renewal, right? It's actually up to 180 days. So you can't apply before that. There is a clear guideline on USA's website as well on this, that you cannot apply before that. So that's what it is, right? So again, what is the additional vetting that they will do, now that they have this new thing? So we don't know. They have not really given any details on what that vetting would be and what they will do on all sorts of things. So all in all, it's actually quite a difficult situation for many of these EAD holders that are actually working and now trying to work with that, right? So we'll have to see how things pan out. Again, thank you for taking the time to watch it. Appreciate your time. Do subscribe for the regular updates. If any questions, do ask in comments. We'll try to respond. Thank you.